Welcome to our show once again on Adili TV. Today I have with me a wonderful man, a nobleman who was heavily involved in the 1979 uprising. He stood and fought beside the Iraqi troops and defended so many officers during the time. I welcome Major Ibrahim Rida. Major, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you.
When did you join the army?
I joined the army directly from school in 1965.
Okay.
I was a part of a group that was selected. You know, you have to have a selection, go through a selection board to get into the military academy.
Okay.
The first batch selected were only 6.
Okay.
Because the demands were very high, the standards set were very high.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, they had to do another selection board so that to reduce the standard, which they did. And I remember we were sent to the 4th Battalion on attachment. During the period the second selection was to be done. And I remember I contracted a very, very serious malaria because every morning we had to run naked, half naked, and you had these insects eating you up.
Was it part of the drills?
It was part of the training we had at that time. They insisted that we run bare-chested. And someone who's never been exposed to jungle, environment, I was badly beaten, and I ended up with a very strong malaria. I had to be evacuated to the military hospital. And I remember when I was killed and I went home, my mother saw me, she didn't recognize me because I had lost half of my weight.
I see.
And she said, if this is what you're going to get in this army, I think you've selected the wrong profession.
Right.
Anyway, the course began. I was lucky to be selected to go to Sandhurst. Initially, they selected 2 officers, Ohanya Asari and Flix Asari. And later on, there were 2 further openings, and myself and Banama Young were added. We went to Sandhurst in 1966, just after the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And I graduated in 1968. And I was posted to the Iraqi regiment. We started the course there. As a second lieutenant, I was given a troop. And it's a very enlightened regiment because most of the officers have been trained in the UK. They've gone through all the exposure and all the we had a very high standard of training and professionalism in that regiment, which had been maintained till the end. The end meaning when I left. And along the way, I was given the extramural job of being what we call the master rider. At the Saddle Club, we have a squadron that handles horses. Okay. So I was in charge of the Saddle Club. Yeah. So as I was saying, I was put in charge of the Saddle Club. I was a young officer, had no family problems to worry about. So every day after lunch, I'd have to go down to the Saddle Club to run the club. It was open to civilians. So from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, you had all the children running around, and children, grown-ups, you name it. That's when I encountered Rawlings. My first encounter with Rawlings was at the Saddle Club. He also loved riding, so he was always there riding. And one thing I noticed was that he was always talking to the junior ranks who were handling the horses. At that time, I didn't see it as any problem until he approached me and threw the question at me, what do you think of the government? So at that time, my mind was absolutely not focused on anything political. I was enjoying my job. I was enjoying the work in the regiment. And then every day it built up. I was talking to the soldiers. When an officer is speaking to a soldier, whether he likes what you are saying or not, he says, oh yeah, yes sir. Anyway, that is my first encounter with him. I found it a little bit disconcerting at that time. I also loved riding. So I would take the first ride, which is the top class, out into the bush, come back, go home and do what young officers do. And time went on. I got promoted to lieutenant. And then in 73, I got promoted to captain. Between lieutenant and captain, you have to pass your promotion exams. And you have to go through certain courses that build up your experience. And the most important aspect is that you have to be recommended by your commanding officer that you are fit for promotion. It went on. I got married in 1974. And then in 1978, I got promoted to major. Again, have to go through my promotion exams. And at one point, I had one paper to complete because I had failed in it. So I had to write that paper to complete. You had to pass on all the subjects. I was selected to go to the Middle East, to Lebanon, but I refused because I had to write the paper before going. I said I'd rather write the paper than go and be prancing around the Middle East. So I remained, I wrote the paper, I passed, and then I got promoted in 1978 to the rank of major. Along the way, of course, we met other officers. Like I met Boachijan, having met Rawlings, having met several officers. I had a very good friend called Kwame Boateng, who just passed away recently. He was the first officer to be selected to be our champion's ADC. I'll come back to him because he told me a lot about Rawlings' character and his behavior.
What was, I mean, we cannot move on without actually identifying something. The exam, the paper you had to write, what was it?
It is called Tactics C.
Okay, so
it is to do with guerrilla warfare and jungle warfare.
All right.
Yeah, I missed the pass mark by a few points, but then I had to rewrite it the following year to complete the 5 subjects that we had to pass.
Were you also aware that Rawlings also had been having issues with?
Rawlings was having issues with the English language.
English language?
Yes. Although he spoke with a fancy accent and all that, he could not pass his current affairs. Current affairs involved all the affairs that were happening all over the world in that particular year. Social, political, economic, you name it. And the examiners will select 5 questions for you to answer, covering some of these subjects. And of course, it's your knowledge of current affairs that will help you. And your presentation, of course, the use of the English language to express yourself, which he found very difficult. He kept failing that particular paper several times, from lieutenant to captain. And he had one last chance. And Boachijan happened to be one of the examiners. And he failed. But Boachijan altered his marks so he could pass. Otherwise, that would have been his last opportunity to take the exams, and he would remain in his rank until he was dismissed out of the armed forces. when you reach a particular rank and you're not able to get out of it over a period of years, then you are due for dismissal. Yeah, because you're not advancing. You're not going anywhere. And even being a pilot, you'll be a pilot for a few number of years, and then you have to move up to an administrative job or a command job, which I don't think Rawlings could have done.
Okay. So, in as much as people saying outside that he had no promotion during the time because of his bad character, was not really to do with his bad character, but the failing of the exam.
His bad character is only his commanding officer could comment on it.
Okay.
Because every year there's a report written on you, a confidential report written on you, and your commanding officer will call you in to read it. And if you agreed with it, you will sign it for the year. So as to his character, it was his commanding officer who would be able to determine whether he was fit for promotion or not, and whether he was fit to remain in the army as an officer or not. If you ask me, I would say here that he was not officer material.
Why do you say?
He did not conform to the rules and regulations of being an officer.
Okay.
There are certain rules laid down that you have to comport yourself as an officer. You have to live a certain way. You have to dress in a certain way. And going to the mess, after 6 o'clock, you have to wear a tie, a long sleeve shirt and a tie. This is what the British left us.
Maintaining a presence at the forefront of a global issue with the desire to help others come to a resolve in personal and business affairs is why Andy D Legal and Immigration Associate was established.
Specialized in overseas British passport applications, bails and temporary admission, deportation and detention cases.
The profound pattern in achieving positive results with fragile cases in immigration, nationality, European Union and human rights law, adoption, marriage, divorce, litigation, and so on, up to date, has been broken, and that is why our client base continues to expand.
We also do representations at the UK border agencies and overseas consulate, human rights law, and settlement and leave to remain applications.
We have the right keys to unlock any case across the spectrum of law, locally in London and across the borders in Ghana, where our other branches are established.
We are located at 44 Broadway, Stratford, E15 1XH. Our telephone number is 0203 1300 751.
And we conform to it. After 6 o'clock, you cannot enter the mess unless you are in a long sleeve shirt and a tie. It's a formal time of the day for you to look respectable. After wearing your uniform to work and wearing your whatever attire you wore, either to do sports or casual attire, when you enter the mess, it's out of respect for the institution. You have to wear the long sleeve shirt. I never saw him in a long sleeve shirt, let alone a tie. Never.
In most of the photographs we have on the internet, he looked very, commending. He was loved, cheered by a lot of people. What was so particular about him then?
Which people are these?
Well, I mean, you could. I mean, he wouldn't have staged that coup if he wasn't that popular.
It could be popular. Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Ali Baba was very popular with the 40 Thieves. They loved him, yes, he's one of them. He was all this macho business and all this talk about let's go and kill the king, let's overthrow this and let's do this. Of course, it attracted some following. And if we look at the following that he attracted, you wouldn't call that a popular situation. Those who followed him liked what he was saying and liked his attitude, liked his behavior. And for an officer to mingle with the lower ranks. It's not to disparage them, no, but we always maintain a certain distance after work to maintain discipline. That's why we have the officer mess, the officers mess. We have the senior NCO's mess. We have the sergeant's mess, and we have the corporal's canteen. Each group goes to its own institution or facility for entertainment and for social, get together. They never mingled.
He never mingled?
No. The
other
groups never mixed.
Okay, all right.
Unless you are invited deliberately
Okay.
to come to the mess for a function. You never went there. He wasn't the type that would go to the officers' mess. The few times I met with him, he would be in his shorts, boxer shorts, and he would go to the officers' mess to buy a drink. And that doesn't tell well of an officer. I can say that without any hesitation, that he did not fit into the officer corps. He could not fit into the officer corps. And that made him unpopular among the officers. If your own, I'll call them the clan, do not accept you, and you've been accepted by a lower class, not lower class in the sense of economic class,
But
a lower rank,
yeah.
that doesn't make you popular. You are not popular. You must stand out among your group, among your peers. You must stand out, and they'll say, yes, hey, this officer is, yes, he's one of us, he's good, he's intelligent, he's this and he's that. You can't condemn every institution and every tradition that we have inherited and we have worked with as being colonial, therefore it's bad. Our armies are built on colonial armies. The Ghana Armed Forces was built on the British system.
Was that his problem? Or his problem was rather to do with
Conformity.
the welfare of...
No, it was more to do with conformity.
Okay.
He did not want to conform. He did not want to conform. He felt that was archaic. That was not his type of gathering that he wants to be in.
Considering the fact that you had honorable people like Major General Data Wellington at the time, who had visited campuses at the time. I recently interviewed Boachijan, who said at the time, officers were not just respected.
Who
Boachijan made that.
Who did not respect the officers?
Junior rank did not respect officers.
Maybe in his unit.
Yeah. Because he was saying at the point Major General Wellington came onto their premises, and he was not even acknowledged. He had to come in and, get people to actually recognize that there was a Major General on campus.
I'll tell you right now without hesitation that that's not true. There's never a time any officer will show this, or soldier will show disrespect to a general. Even to a senior officer, let alone a general. You see, we cannot create stories now to justify what had happened or what we did. It did get to a point in some units after the June 4th, during the June 4th period, some soldiers refused to salute the officers. If you listen to Rawlings' first broadcast, he kept on saying that the soldiers, the junior ranks, have had enough of being oppressed. Therefore, the officers should keep out of their way. What does that tell you? Officers should keep out of the way of the soldiers, meaning that they should be left to do whatever they wanted to do. So the officers kept out of their way. And they started arresting their commanding officers. They started arresting senior officers. Officers kept out of their way. So the soldiers had the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do. He himself could not control what they have started. They could not control them. From daybreak till midnight, soldiers were roaming around the town, harassing Ghanaians, stealing,
We'll get to the 15th May. What does it have any relations to Folk June at all?
None whatsoever. 15th May was an action by Rawlings himself out of envy and jealousy. He had reached a state where he was in debt, financial debt. And his way out was to create a situation to get support. Because I remember very well that morning, we heard that he had captured 2 of our armored cars from the airport. We had some armored cars at the airport. He went with a few men, got hold of the drivers and told them to drive him and his men to Gonda Barracks and Arakan. You know where Arakan and Gonda Barracks are? We are at the end of Bema Camp.
Okay.
2 units, and there's a road dividing us.
All right.
And at the end of it is the mess that we all use. He drove there early in the morning, and officers were doing physical training. He chased the officers to join him. But the officers must join him, go wear their uniforms and come and join him. So most of the officers took to their heels and went to their rooms. And then they came into our regiment. Some of his men grabbed our regimental sergeant major, whom I saw yesterday. Eventually, he was arrested by Major Sulemana and brought to the regiment. When he was searched, they found a 2-page write-up in his pocket. And I tell you, if you gave that to a psychiatrist to analyze it, they'll tell you the man who did that is mad. It was a write-up that you could never understand, and in between every line there were a lot of sketches and scrolls and something that a child would write, would draw, on every page. And all that he was saying, or he was trying to say, was that he's drawing the attention of the government to the economic situation in Ghana, that the economy was being monopolized by foreigners. That's what he said he wanted to say. So he was arrested and handed over to the intelligence, who locked him up. He was locked up inside Bema Camp. And the military intelligence have a few cells. And as an officer, he was not sent to the guard room. He was given a cell of his own. I believe he got to a point of where he could not cope. He could not cope with the situation. He was envious of officers who have made it. He was envious of children of wealthy people who had done it through hard work. He was envious of the car you were driving. He was envious of the clothes you were wearing. And all that added up in his mind to make him feel that he was going nowhere. I'll tell you that in the armed forces, he was going nowhere. He could never have passed the promotion exam from captain to major, and could not be a pilot forever. He was going nowhere. I believe all that might have worked on his mind and did what he did. I cannot say what that meant clinically.
Who released him from? So, he got arrested.
I was coming to that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, planning was going on for this insurrection to begin, which had no part of Rawlings in it.
Okay.
On 3rd June, 3rd June is my birthday. So 3rd June, I was invited to a dinner by a friend.
Okay.
With my wife at the time. And we came home around midnight. And no sooner had I taken my clothes and trying to get into bed, I heard a shot. And I heard another shot coming from 5 Battalion. Then I had a telephone call. It was my commanding officer saying, "Get dressed. I'm sending a car to pick you up." there is problems at 5 BN. So I told my family that I have to go. So I put on my uniform. And the armored car came and picked me up. We went to the regiment and we stood around, not knowing. They started shooting at 5 Battalion. At that time, we didn't know what was happening. But we knew the commanding officer was there, because after May 15, the commanding officer spent a lot of time in his battalion. Colonel Otting, that was his name. We had no interaction with him. That was a major problem.
With Major Otting?
We had no interaction with Colonel Otting.
Okay.
So that the units could not join together to quell any problem that would arise. Anyway, we went in there, and my commanding officer, Major Suleimana, I'll tell you that if there is any officer in this world I'll follow to go into battle, is Major Suleimana. That man doesn't understand what fear is. Very brave, very focused, very dedicated officer. His first attempt was to get the brigade commander, who all the battalions and units in one brigade report to. He's the first line of report. He then will report to the army commander. We spent the whole morning calling Brigadier Amwa. There was no response. Meanwhile, we were getting our boys, we put on the alarm. Our boys filtered from the barracks. We shared the same barracks with 5 Battalion. The boys were being prevented from coming to the unit, but they all managed to come. We got the armored cars lined up. We got ammunition ready for orders. No orders came until 8 o'clock in the morning. The commanding officer called me. He said he's received orders from the army commander. He wanted the broadcasting house secured. He wants to come and speak to the troops. Meanwhile, before then, there was a lot of upheaval among the insurrectionists. They were looking for someone to go to the broadcasting house to make an announcement. I believe Bwachija was one of the people he was asked to go, and he refused. He and Achamfo. They refused to go to broadcasting house to make that announcement. But they said, why not? Let's go and take Rawlings. After all, he has nothing to lose. He's already in jail. That's why they released Rawlings, and that's when he fits into the reason why they released him, because he's already been exposed to the nation. That trial exposed him. He went and spoke some Rambo kind of talk that they should release the man, he's the only one. That was all populist talk. Because when he was, and I'm saying this because I have first-hand knowledge of it, through an officer who was a member of the board, of the investigation board. The Rawlings went on his knees begging, he was crying, begging that he should not be killed. And then when he sees a crowd, he's a different man. He's a hero. He's standing up for his men. They should release them, and then he himself must stand. That's how he plays. If you isolate him alone, he's a coward. And I'll say it again, if you isolate him alone, he's a coward. Give him a crowd, he's a hero, he's a brave man. So you are dealing here with two personalities. Which one do you follow? Which one is the right one? You know? So that's how he got involved. And it got to a point where I'm sure Bwachichan said he regretted doing it. Anyway, that's for Bwachichan.
Yeah, that's to say. 4th June occurred. It happened. That day, Rawlings made an announcement at the broadcasting.
Yes.
You were with Major General Date Wellington that day?
No, I wasn't with him.
Okay.
I had earlier been sent to secure the broadcasting house.
When we say secure, what does it mean?
It means to capture it, to retake it from the...
Were there any casualties?
No.
There weren't?
No.
According to Wachidan, you had, or your men had killed 4 of...
He's lying.
Nobody died on
Nobody
that day,
died
on the way to
because when I captured the broadcasting house, the first thing I did a sweep.
What do you mean by sweep?
I went through the broadcasting house with my men to look for casualties. We didn't see any. If anybody had been shot, then he took his wound away somewhere. But he could not have been shot and run. You've seen the bullet from the armored car. It's 20 millimeter. It's about 6 inches long. If that hits you in the chest, it will blow you apart. The first thing we did was to look for casualties. And then I came back again after deploying the men around the broadcasting house. I made the first announcement. It was for me to give a signal that the house is secure. That the soldiers should go back to their units, blah, 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 blah. And I said all that. That alerted Major Sulemana to bring the army commander. So the army commander came with Major Sulemana. And I'll tell you, he wasn't shooting anything, or like they said, he was on top of the armored car firing. An army commander doesn't fire a weapon. It's ignorance. He would not fire a weapon because he's got officers and men who will do that. He may have been on top of the armored car, whom they may have seen, but he did not fire anything. Even our CO does not fire the weapon. He brought Major General Odati Wellington in. You know, the radio broadcast is near the main entrance on the western side. As he came, the first thing he asked, Rida, are there any casualties? I said, no, sir. I said, good. Then he went in. Richard Cote was the announcer on duty. So he said, give me a paper and a pencil, a pen, I want to. So he quickly scribbled what he was going to say. He was with Rear Admiral Amedume. They came together. I believe Amedume may have been in his office when Major Sulemana went to pick them up. He came there. General Odati Wellington gave his broadcast. He hung around for a while. And then he said he wanted to go back to his office. So Major Sulemana took him back to his office. So we were there protecting the broadcasting house. There was no incident there. But we heard that they had started shelling Recce Regiment. Lobbing 2-inch mortars. You know those small mortars that you drop the shell and boom. They were lobbing those into our unit. So I said, I called the CEO that I better go to the regiment and see what I can do there. And I handed over to one officer called Amania. He passed recently. He became a major general and he passed recently. To secure the broadcasting house. A year after I had left, not long after he himself left the broadcasting house for the insurrectionists to come in. Because they were shouting, it's order rank school, order rank school, order rank school, hoping that we could incite our boys to mutiny. But our boys did not react. They stayed with us.
Major Wachijan also confirmed that it was negligent on the part of, in fact, he was a bit disappointed in Major General Odati Wellington's behavior on the day that he had taken the stand to fight against the junior ranks, knowing well that he did not have the backing of the junior rank.
I'll tell you right now that he did not take a stand to fight. And I will say without sounding ambitious or whatever, if he had told us to fight, it would have been very bloody. If you listen to his address, and he told us, he said, I don't want casualties on both sides. He was there, he called for a truce. And I'll tell you later what happened. He called for a truce. He did not want any casualties on both sides. When he entered, the first question he asked me is, are there any casualties? And I said no, because we didn't see any. Like I'm saying, if Bachija said there were casualties, then they may have taken them. When they ran out, they took the casualties away. My troops did not fire a rifle. We fired that gun on the armored car, and we fired at the gate and at the wall. What happened behind, we don't know. But that round cannot go through a wall. Therefore, they all ran out of fear. And I charged across, you see that distance from the road to the gate. I charged on foot. I made the armored cars stand behind, and I got 7 men, and we charged on foot. So when I got to the gate, there were only 2 soldiers there, 1 corporal Atipo and 1 sergeant. I said, where is your man? He said, oh, they have run away. So I told him to put him in my armored car. He's under arrest. There were no casualties.
At that given point, did you believe that you had secured the ground for peace to reign? Did you?
We had secured the ground for it to be used by the army commander. We knew that they could not take that ground from us again. With the troops I had and with the quality of men I had, they could never have taken that from us again, unless they had to fight for it. And we had to fight to defend it. No such order was given.
So you gave up?
I did not give up. The officer we handed over to gave up. He gave up and took his troops somewhere else, I don't know where. But when we got to Reki Regiment, we found that they were still lobbing the bombs. And I remember very well that Major Sita was there with his troops. And we agreed that we should go and join the other troops under the commanding officer. So we couldn't pass through Burma camp again. We had to go across the open ground behind the airport to get to the motorway. When we got to the motorway, they had blocked the road. There was a lot of soldiers waiting, the prisoners with rifles. So it was funny. We have these armored cars coming and they're holding rifles. So we told the first gunner, fire over their heads. So he fired a few shots. They all scattered and ran away and left their block. Anyway, when we got to a point, we found out that our next meeting place was the police headquarters. So that's why we all went to the police headquarters.
What made Major General Data leave the police headquarters to Lima Police Station?
Again, I don't know how to describe him. I mean, his qualities. He initially was upset if there had been any casualties. He would have been very upset. He's a very hard man. And it is unwise to appear before him with an offense that he had to judge on. Very hard soldier, very dedicated, fearless. And the time we spent at the police headquarters was used to try and talk to the leaders of the mutinies. So he sent people to go and tell Rawlings and his whatever that he's waiting to meet with them. And he wanted to meet with them to discuss the way forward. And he would come alone unarmed with Major Sulemana. And they would meet in his father's house. So Major Sulemana even had to change. You have to wear shorts and a t-shirt. But the general would remain in his uniform. What they foolishly did was to send an Air Force soldier with a gun to try and shoot the general. So as this boy was coming on a scooter, our boys stopped him. They were on the road. They stopped him and grabbed him and brought him in. He had a pistol. What are you doing with this pistol? Oh, they told me to come and shoot the general. We said, yeah, I haven't told you this. He gave him a few slaps and told him to bugger off. He took the pistol from him and told him to get away. And General said, don't hurt him more. Don't hurt him. You boys, don't hurt him. So we allow him to go. If he, the general, wanted a fight, Could they have stood in our way? You imagine these armored cars coming at you, opening with fire pouring out. There is no way you could stand this. Maybe they would outnumber us. They did outnumber us. We may at a certain time have run out of ammunition, but we still had rifles. We would have put up a fight that will never be forgotten.
Do you want to step out, embraced in jewelry no attention can resist? Ahima Jewelry has fine pieces of rings, pendants, chains and bracelets inspired by 9 different uplifting Idinkra symbols, made in sterling silver and 18 CT plated yellow and rose gold. Ahima Jewelry is your first stop jewelry shop with worldwide delivery and extra attention on complimentary gift packaging. At Ahima, your jewelry are handmade with love.